emotive story there of resilience, hope, forgiveness, and strength. That is a real story. That's a documentary there by the Get Real film campaign, and it's called Before 16. Very well, captured the feelings and emotions of a child and a mother. Of course, the child feeling the responsibility of the weight of being born out of the action of defilement, or rather rape. And we have the mother here trying to make understand that it is not that it is her fault, that she also just has emotions and feelings that she is also processing. Now, like I mentioned, we have a panel that will be able to help us break down this conversation of, the aspect of the topic of being born out of defilement. And Phoebe, I saw you became very emotional while you're, watching or just listening to the film. What is happening?
It really paints a dire and a very clear picture of what they actually go through and they went through. So, as you said, it's very emotive. It's quite heavy to watch.
I see. Lydia, it is 2024. Our African traditions are still very, closed in when it comes to a child or a mother. Now, a mother who's raped, having a child out of that action, it's quite the stigma in our society and in the continent at large. Where do you feel we stand right now as a country on that?
It is very emotional, and I would say that it is also very devastating. When we talk about defilement and crime, it is a crime. And talking about crime, it has far-reaching consequences. And in African country, I would say that when we look at the data from UNICEF, it is very devastating and horrifying, because we are told that 1 out of 8 already had sexual assault. And so it is very devastating for African women and girls to understand that many people are going through this. And also, when we look at it globally, we can say that 370 million have already had assault. And specifically 79 million are the mostly affected. And this is very horrifying for an African woman.
I see. Yes. All right. Now, Evelyn, we have a predicament here because we have mothers have to carry these children. They decide they want to, but society also stigmatizes them for actually carrying the child. Then we have the children. Now, when later on family, the rest of the other family, extended family, finds out that they're born or they're friends, they also become stigmatized, and they don't grow up in a healthy, environment for that matter. So, as an advocate of the High Court, how do you usually handle these matters?
When we get cases of defilement, because from just the film that we've watched, clearly the mother was defiled. When we get to cases of defilement, it is important that they get justice within the justice system. It is part of the healing journey, just knowing that the person who defiled the person has gone through the court system and has been convicted. So as a person dealing with matters of defilement, we journey with the survivor. For us, we call them survivors. We journey with the survivor through the court process to ensure that this person is convicted, and that as a victim or complainant, then they get justice and closure in that particular matter. Of course, where we work, and just knowing the importance of mental health, we have to journey with counselors. Because it is a difficult journey to speak about. It is not easy. We also try to, I'm not only an advocate, but I also train and teach and reach out to the community. So when we get to the community dialogues, we try and deal with the stigma that they face back in the community, so that we have a holistic way of dealing with the issues that surround sexual violence in all its forms.
I see. Now, I want to, of course, ask our audience, our panelists also in the audience, and you have a rescue center. And one of the most key things here, you deal with real life stories of mothers and children who want to find a sort of an escape because of the judgment that society has upon them. And one of the things I asked Phoebe here is, in 2024, how is this situation looking? Are people now understanding that this is a key thing? It happens in society, it's bad, but it's actually there. Are they dealing with it presently properly?
Thank you so much. I'm happy that people now have the empowerment, they're empowered about the sexual gender-based violence against children than previous years. In 2024, we have been able to empower all to sensitize people about the challenges and the consequences that occurs when a girl has been defiled. When we go for the rescue, we have to inform the communities what happens when the girl has been abused. And we appreciate the partners, the county government, and also crew, where we have been able to be having a group of children protection officers to go to the community and empower the community, and also in schools to tell children when you are abused, when you are raped, when you are defiled, which procedure are you supposed to follow? When you are raped, what are you supposed to do? And by that, we have been able to see the decrease of rape in our community.
I see. Right, and I just want to remind our audience at home of our question of the day. We're asking you, what challenges do children born out of defilement face? And also our audience here that we're having live, we're asking you the same thing. What challenges do you believe children born out of defilement face? And now I want us to have, to go deeper, to have a real conversation. Of course, majibu atanisaidia pale with our audience, but all of you deal with real life scenarios. Yeah, mama na mtoto wake. Yeah, the mother is traumatized that she got this child out of defilement. She doesn't want to keep it in some cases, and in some cases she wants to, she doesn't know what to do. And now we also have the child who has a right to live, but the issue is how the child came into this world. So Phoebe, what are some of those real life scenarios that you have dealt with, and how have you helped these various individuals go through this particular aspect?
All right. So when you talk, I think you mentioned about we work with the survivors so that we can be able to support their mental health, because that's the most important thing. And I think from the film you can pick up that the mother did not attach very well with the child initially. Because every day you're waking up and you're seeing this is a stark reminder of something traumatic that happened to me. So through this, we're able to work and to provide interventions to help the mothers to be able to have a secure attachment to the child if the child is born, and once the child is born, because you can see she actually used to harm the child prior, meaning there was a discordancy, they were not very well attached.
But you see, from the time this child is in their mother's stomach, they're already experiencing trauma.
Yes.
Because the whole time, maybe the mother anakunywa dawa as a antidepressants. Hataki ajui apate mtoto ama asimpate. So tayari mtoto ana experience that distress in the mother's tummy. Yes. So how do you help them through that psychosocial? How does that even be prevented in the first place?
All right. So we do something called trauma-focused therapy, where we're able to support survivors who have experienced a form of any sexual gender-based violence. That way you're not just giving them counseling and you're not just intervening and providing them with the sessions, you're able to help them come to terms with the incident or the issue that happened to them. And then that way you're able to even intervene before it gets to now the depression, like you're saying. So, but the most important thing is being able to get to them before or immediately after it happens. So we do something called psychological first aid also, which helps to minimize the chances of someone developing postpartum PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, or even now going further down the line and having other mental health issues.
I see. Yes. Now, Lydia, you are a champion here in Nyeri County, and we've also seen that the statistics of children born out of defilement in this particular county is quite high. So how do you deal with these particular cases, and exactly how do you guide the mothers on the decision on whether to keep the child or not?
Thank you so much. One of the things I want to refer back and say that there are some effects that come around with the children who have been born out of defilement. And it is important to note that there is high risk of psychosocial issues. There is depression and there is stress. And also we want to talk about prenatal development due to maternal stress. This child is already stressed because the mother has not been able to keep with them. Then there is difficult in forming parental-child bonds. There's no bonding at all with the mother and the child. And so the child is just surviving. And the other one is social stigma and also outcasting. This child is already outcasted because no one would want to deal with that child because of the stigma around. And so one of the issues that would come up around is to embrace. You need to embrace the mothers, you need to embrace the child and bring them together. I want to give an example of the pregnancies that happened during the time of COVID. And we had to make sure, because that time I was working as the county GBV coordinator in Nyeri, I was able to, with a team from the county, was able to have discussions with the mother and the children, just trying to fix them together because there was a lot of disconnect between the two. I remember one time we had a child who was born out of defilement and the mother could not even connect with them and feeling very embarrassed to have had the child.
So in that particular emotion, that's what we are saying. You know, it's very confusing, and our society is a society that likes to ride itself on the aspect of moral high ground. Also, we're a Christian nation, yeah? So when the mother feels what she feels valid, but she's embarrassed that she was defiled or raped for this matter, and then this child came to fore. So those are very complex feelings, and both of them are right. You know, how can you make someone understand such deep feelings? They're right, lakini usifanye hii, fanya hii. Nani hapo anaweza jua kuna makosa na mwingine hana makosa?
One of the issues is to make them come to realization. No, they have not realized it has happened. It is like just an emotion. And so we want to bring them to that feeling that it is already there and there is a second chance of living. And there is a way out by bringing the Christian values, just trying to fix them on Christian values and making them understand that through Christianity and spiritual growth, they can be able to face tomorrow. Then the other thing is to make sure that we empower them so that they feel that they are part and parcel of the society. Now that it has happened and they have survived, it would have been more complex. But now, because it has happened, they need to take it the way it is and run with it. One, to make sure that they can feel that there is something that better that would come for tomorrow, spiritually. And so we also do mentorship, a lot of mentorship for them, just trying to make them understand that they are not the only ones. It is happening, but because it has happened, and the next thing is to move on with life and dealing with the emotions. And one of the things, as my sister has said, dealing with emotions is counseling. Counseling has to take charge so that, yes, so that they are counseled and they can understand and they can open up. Then the other thing is to make sure that they understand it is not always that they can keep the child with them. They can even, we have rescue centers, and the child can be brought up in a rescue center, and the time the mother feels like seeing the child, they are open to do that. But we also connect them with the hospitals around for the caregivers so that they can also do follow-ups, making sure that, like in the hospital where we have the GBV centers, we have 5 follow-ups so that we can connect them with the child. There is also something that we call reintegration.
Okay, let me go to Evelyn. I'll ask you the same question, dealing with such complex emotions. And then we also have the law, what the Constitution says, about aspects of abortion and unintended pregnancies, coupled with what's happening in the society. And also, we had spoken earlier about the sexual acts, right? We already have a document in place that supports all that. So give us that picture.
Okay, of course, the Constitution, as we all know, and Article 26 says that unless there is a medical emergency of some sort, and that a medical practitioner ascertains that an abortion should be procured, then that is not legal. It criminalizes, it's actually criminalized in our justice system. And this applies to everyone, up to and including, women who actually get expectant through rape or defilement. And so therefore there is no way out for this particular woman who may want, or survivor who may want to procure an abortion, because it is illegal in and of itself. But also when you come to the rights of now the child once they are born, the Constitution again says that this child is protected by the state, and that everything that happens, any decisions that we make as a state, as a people, as a parent, must be in the best interest of the child. And the same is also replicated in the Children Act. So it's a situation that is very dire for this particular survivor who gets defiled and they conceive. And so how do we change the narrative when it comes to this? Whose rights do we uphold? Whose rights are more, are heavier than the other person's? Being a citizen of Kenya, of course, we all have equal rights, and that is why we have to bring in all the other professionals, like you've spoken to Phoebe and the champions and the CCIs. We bring them in so that each and every person who is affected by the defilement, because the defilement affects each survivor in different ways. If it is the mother who is affected and they're unable, for instance, to take care of the child, then they should not be stigmatized. How do we assist this mother? And how do we assist this child? And that is why we come in with the other, we have the NGOs, we have the government. It is primarily the government who is supposed to take care of these children, but there needs to be assistance sometimes from the NGOs, and they come in to seal that gap. We have very good laws when it comes to protection. We have very good laws when it comes to prosecution, but the operationalization of these laws is what is difficult. And that makes it difficult for a person to access the justice that we seek for each and every party that is included in this particular mix. So for the children, unfortunately, the children who are already here and they were born out of defilement, if the mother, for instance, does not want them, Lydia stated that they can go to the charitable children institutions. But right now, as we speak, it is something that is being phased out. So where will these children go? And that's why you can see what we are transitioning to is the foster care sort of system. Will they be better taken care of there? Is this something that is able to work in the Kenyan context? Maybe we need to ask ourselves that. These particular mothers who undergo also the defilement, are the services that they get through the justice system, this being the police, from the police to the courts, is it proper? Is it the way is it operationalized the way it's supposed to be? Do they get the right services? No, not at the moment, because you'll find that a girl is defiled, but then we want to go for the traditional justice system. So we want to talk, want to negotiate, because they feel like when we talk, we will get some money back, because this child comes from a society, comes from a family, and the family is most likely economically challenged.
No, just hold on to that thought. You said something very important, and I want to ask you, just linked to what she says. This child, what you're saying, comes from the society. So kuna zile like normal traditional ways ama tu zamta za kawaida on how families will deal with their daughters in the case defilement has happened, right? And you can find, if it's in a family, they know it's their uncle.
Yeah.
They know, unfortunately, like the dad, the uncle, the brother, whoever it is, just a male figure that's very close to that. How do you even negotiate that? In some of those cases, zimekuwa chini ya maji. So watu hawafai kujua because italeta aibu kwa familia. Lakini kuna huyu mtoto, kuna huyu msichana. Have you dealt with such cases? And if you have, what have you done? or what can be done?
Yeah, very true. We have such cases, but what we say is that best interest of the child first. No matter who is the perpetrator, we have cases where, and Dr. can confirm, where we have the perpetrators are the biological fathers. Right now we have 7 cases going in court where you find a 2-year-old girl defiled by the uncle, a 13-year-old girl defiled by the biological daddy, and then the community or the family members try to threaten the survivor. We come up and say the best interest of the child first. Despite is your uncle, despite is your brother, despite is your daddy, we have to fight for your justice. And that's the time we have to rescue this child through the children department, and we fight for their justice. Because what happens, and it is a research that have been saying, is that when a girl have been defiled by the biological or a relative, a chance of doing it again and again is very high. Because now the hormones, remember this is a young girl, she is growing, the hormones will continue asking for it. And the next person that it is around is the same person, the same perpetrator who did the same thing. So the higher chance of doing it again and again is there. What do we do as activists? What do we do as Neema GBV Rescue Center? We empower this girl with knowledge. We empower her to say no. We empower her to go to court, not to mute, but to testify for her to get her justice. Despite all that, we take her to the hospital. We also take her to the counseling so that she can heal fast.
And we have a good percentage of numbers of these cases that actually justice prevails at the end of the day.
We get them from the county government, and because they're the one who keep the data, and also through the court maybe, because for us we do the total rescue, yeah, so that we can fight for the right of this child. Because there is no law in Nyeri or in county or in Kenya that says when a girl is defiled by the dad who is the breadwinner, that this is supposed to be a kangaroo court. No, we have to fight for the right of this girl. She must know her right, her basic needs, that is education, medication, and also we go to court, the person must be jailed. We don't say to be jailed, but to get justice, so that he learn that what I have done is illegal and it is not good for my community or even for me. And then from there, the girl will become the champion to testify to others.
I see. Now I want to hand over to my colleague Majibu, who would engage with the audience. If you have any questions or so, Majibu will be right there to, of course, take it away.
Asante Remi, asante Remi. Mimi huwa nawaambia kila siku ndugu zangu wanaume, muombe tu kwa heshima, usimnajisi, akikataa wairimu nenda kwa wangeshi, si ndio? Sasa tumetazama ile filamu na umesikia pia wataalamu wakizungumza. Ningependa sasa kupata maoni yenu, kwa maana nimewaambia kwamba ni gumzo ambalo ningependa pia muweze kuchangia kwa kina kabisa. Ningependa pia nianze na nani? Sitaenda kwa Domi, nimekuwa kwake sahi. Nije kwako bingwa. Naomba usimame tafadhali tuweze kukuona nyumbani. Unajua sahi mpaka mzee wa kijiji na kuona sahi mzee. Uko live K24 na Kameme. Jina lako nani na hisia zako ni zipi baada ya kutazama ile filamu na pia kauli za wale wataalamu ambao wameweza kuzungumza hivi sasa? Nakushikia, usiogope.
Jina langu ni Alan Mefwafwa. Nimetazama ile filamu nikagundua umaskini na malezi mabaya ya wazazi inachangia mambo mengi mambo mengi ambayo yanatokana na gender based violence katika jamii.
Asante. Na kabla ukae kidogo tu, je, unadhani ni mambo gani ambayo yanafaa kufanyika kwenye jamii zetu ili kuweza kuhakikisha kwamba watoto wale ambao wamezaliwa baada ya mama zao kubakwa wanapata haki na pia jamii hawachukulii kama watoto ambao ni laana kwao?
Jambo la kwanza, jamii inafaa kuelimishwa. Alafu kama idara ya mahakama na polisi wachukulie kwa uzito jambo kama hilo linapofanyika.
Asante. Amezungumza kama wakili, nasema idara ya mahakama. Kiswahili safi ndugu yangu. Na pia vile vile, kuna jamaa ananyosha mkono, naomba usimame. Jina lako nani na hisia zako ni zipi?
Okay, acha nijishikie.
Nakushikia.
Okay. Steven Kireni. First of all, I thank you for the platform that you have given us as youths. And I have a question to the panel, first of all. You have talked about, we were talking about defilement. And for me, my basic understanding of defilement is having a sexual intercourse with any child less than 18 years, right? But you have tended to speak more about a girl child that is being raped and all that stuff. But my question is, where is the position of the boy child in this whole issue? Because I've not heard anyone talking about the boy who is defiled. The latest case of somebody who was defiled in Mombasa, I think that he was an activist or something, a blogger. I've not heard any issue about that, either from you or from the government taking the law taking its action. So, what's the position of the boy child in this matter?
Asante. Na pia nadhani mmemsikia, watakuwa wanapata nafasi ya kukujibu. Pia anatetea nafasi ya mtoto wa kiume, anasema mnaongezungumzia sana kuhusu girl child, lakini pia boy child mnamsahau. Pia watakuwa wanapata kukujibu. Pia vile vile nipate pia kuzungumza na mwingine. Nimezungumza na wanaume wawili sasa. Madeo mko wapi? Wako hapa nyuma. Haya, naomba usimame kwa kifupi tu, jina lako nani, halafu niambie hisia zako ni kwa maana mara nyingi wasichana ndio wao wanaathirika sana kwa kiasi kikubwa. Naomba usimame, jina lako nani na nadhani kipi kifanyike kisha kwamba mnapata haki.
Jina langu ni Joan.
Sauti Joan. Sauti.
Jina langu ni Joan.
Kuna watoto ambao labda unawafahamu ambao wamezaliwa baada ya mama zao kunajisiwa. Je, unadhani kipi kifanyike kuhakikisha kwamba wale watoto wanapata haki na jamii haiwachukulii kama laana?
They are stigmatized, and that is so bad, and that they should be the ones who have done that action should be either taken to the courts for justice to take place here.
Asante. Amezungumza pia vizuri, anasema kwamba wale ambao wanahusika na visa hivi, na nitarudia tena kauli hii kama nilivyosema awali, visa hivi si ujauzito ambao unajiri tu kwa baada, si zile za Roho Mtakatifu. Kuna watu ambao wanahusika na wanahusika wako hapa, ni wanaume kwa wingi kabisa. Pia vile vile ningependa kupata kauli ya mwingine. Nipate nani? Kuna mzee wangu hapa ngependa kuzungumza. Labda jina lako nani na kauli yako ni ipi na kipi kifanyike?
My name is Ella Musasia. This one goes to the legal team here. There is that transition you are talking about. A child about 4 years is rescued. And let us throw our eyes into the slums. The mother is mentally challenged. The perpetrators of who defiled the mother, they have defiled this girl, 4-year-old. The girl is in pieces. And after mending these pieces, the girl is in the rescue center in Neema GBV. And then the law allows transition or reintegration into back to the society. Where do you take this child? The mother is mentally retarded. The mother is mentally challenged. Or I call it in normal language, the mother is mad. The girl is 4 years. She has been done by the same people who have been doing this with the mother. Now, which means the child, the environment is hostile to both the mother and to the girl. So where do you take this child after integration? Where do you take the child? That is my question.
Asante. Nadhani pia wataalamu pale mbele watakuwa wanaandika maswali na wanapata nafasi pia ya kuyajibu. Kuna mwingine ambaye yuko na swali. Naona ni wengi. Wacha nianze hapa mbele nikija huko nyuma. Sawa sawa. Naomba usimame tukuone pale nyumbani, uko live kabisa, wanakuona. Naambiwa pale State House pia wameka screen kubwa. Mama Rachel amesema tu watch K24 leo. Jina lako nani na kauli yako ni ipi?
Okay. My name is Peace Menda. First of all, I'm happy to be here. This is a forum where it's actually rare to get such forums where we can discuss such deep issues like this. So first, what I've gotten from the video is, to the mom, she had to find solace, and this solace was to get a man to fix her life. Because first of all, she has been defiled, and so she feels herself, she's not, haezi tosheleka kwa society. So kile anafanya ni kupata a man, and of course, sometimes we are driven by emotions, and we feel we need someone in our lives to fix our problems, not knowing we are fixing our problems, temporarily. You see, it's just for a short period of time, then it goes. So I think also there is that education of the person or the mother who has been defiled. Apate hata ye kujua, you have first to accept, as she has said, you first have to accept that it has already happened. The same way we deal with early pregnancies, you first have to accept that uko na mtoto, uko na mimba, so what next, you see? But I have a question. You talked about justice. I'm yet to understand, what is this justice we are calling justice? Because I feel we have not met the exact term of justice. Because apparently, just the other day, there's this, ilikuwa news year 2018, but was ilikaletwa just recently, of a member of parliament, but then he was working as a PA to maybe CS, I think so, and he defiled a 16-year-old girl, you see? You know, I feel we have not taken justice equally. Kwa sababu mtu hapa akishikwa akidefile msichana wa 16, that's 20 years sentence. You see, but to someone who is in power, haizi chukuliwa such a yani kitu kama hiyo iwezi mhapenia. A bond of 50,000, that's all. So I'm yet to understand, maybe you're going to elaborate to us, what is this justice, you see? I think I'm going to ask the other questions later.
Kwa kifupi tu, sawa, nasema maliza. Nadhani maswali mengi yanaelekezwa kwenye idara ya mahakama, pia tutakuwa tukipata nafasi ya wakili pia tuweze kuelezea. Pia kwa kifupi, mwelekezo unasema wapi mzee? Hapa. Haya, niweze kupata, naomba usimame kwa tafadhali. Jina lako nani na hisia zako ni zipi?
Ni Wera, nitatumia Kiingereza. My name is Fabi Kimotho, and I have a question to the legal department as well. You just said that abortion is illegal, even to those people who are affected by defilement. But I do think that making it illegal for them as well is asking them to live with their pain. And that is exactly why you will find, like what we've watched right now, that mother is in pain and still seeing the fruits of the pain with her. I think as a legal system or something, you should come up with a system where if this mother does not want to live with this, don't make her. If she doesn't want to carry the child for 9 months, don't make her. That is literally adding to her pain.
Asante. Pia kwa kifupi tu niweze kupata kauli ya naomba usimame pia kwa kifupi. Jina lako nani na pia vile vile labda mapungufu yako wapi kwenye idara ya mahakama na pia kwenye jamii kuweza kuhakikisha kwamba wale watoto ambao wamezaliwa baada ya mama zao kubakwa wanapata haki na jamii haiwachukulii vibaya pia.
Thank you for this opportunity. Kwa majina ni Agnes Wanjiko-Ashira, MCA at the County Assembly of Nyeri representing gender. Utaniwa radhi nitaongea na Kizungu. In the cases whereby we have the judiciary delaying the cases for very long, there's a very big gap there, because you'll even find cases lasting as long as even 10 years, where in the process, the people have tried even to heal. cases have delayed, and even some people along the way have died. So there's a very big gap there, and it is very discouraging to also report these rape cases because we find that justice is delayed and it is also justice denied. You find files are missing, judges have been transferred, so you find those gaps are not doing justice to the victims. Thank you.
Asante. Pia mwelekezi, kama utaniruhusu, kabla nirudishe kwa mwenzangu Remi, niweze kupata kauli pia wengi. Ameniambia ameniruhusu. Mkiona anacheka msishangae, kuna mtu ananiongelesha kwenye masikio. Niweze kupata kauli pia mwingine. Kuna mmoja alikuwa amenyosha mkono pande huu. Ni wewe, naomba usimame tafadhali. Halafu kauli yako ni ipi bingwa?
Hello guys, I'm Sean Mutuku. First, my review on the film, I'm really sad and mad that the girl had to go through that at a minor age. So my question still goes to the legal team, and this mother, her trauma might reflect her to do this on the child, but is there any action taken against her because the child is still young, she still wets her bed, and the mother goes to an extent of taking razor blades and cutting her? So is there any action taken against the mother, or is she protected being the mother of the victim?
Asante, maswali hayo mtakuwa mnapata majibu baada ya muda usiokuwa mrefu. Nipate pia kauli ya mwingine upande huu mwingine. Pia tumezungumza sana huko, lakini pia hapa naomba usimame na kukumbusha tena 20 million Kenyans are watching you. Jina lako nani na hisia zako ni zipi?
I'm Charlene Omboi, you can call me Shin, I'm a Bobo. I've been listening to all questions, they are all directed to the court. But my question is, I was trying to understand if the person or the girl is defiled by a family member, then what happens? Because I'm trying to imagine if it's my father who raped me, then he's the sole provider of my home. Are we going to take him to the court? Or how is my mother going to react? And question number 2, I'm just thinking, I don't know what I'm supposed to do to that case, because if my mother, we are all dependent on my uncle or my father-in-law or my stepdad, what are we going to do if we take him to the court? Because that goes to the burden of the mother. Am I supposed to react or let it go? And number 2, what are we going to do to the family members? Because regardless, even if I take them to the court, alafu, that's my question.
Asante. Swali zuri kabisa. Amesema kwamba endapo yule ambaye ni mhusika mkuu kwenye visa hivi ni mtu ambaye ni wa familia kabisa, iwe ni baba ama ni mjomba, uncle. Mara nyingi vijana wanasema kwamba ni bestie. Lakini sasa ni mjomba ambaye anahusika hapa. Kipi kifanyike? Watakuwa wanakujibu. Naomba usimame bingwa. Jina lako nani na maoni yako ni yapi?
Kwa majina naitwa Washira Kimohu. I'm a youth leader here in Nyeri, and I want to bring a cultural perspective on the courts. Kitambo ukipata hizi cases zikifanyika, for example, a 16-year-old is defiled, alikuwa anafosiwa maybe kuolewa na huyo mwenye amemfanyia hiyo tendo, na unapata sasa hiyo imekuwa resolved na mambo inaendelea vizuri. There is a gap, and I want maybe the court, from the court perspective, which is the gap between, we are now, rape cases started since 2000. We are now here 24 years later. Tunaongea sana kuhusu wale watoto wamekuwa defiled. What about this kid? Amekuwa mkubwa, he or she is 20 years old. Anahandle aje the situation here, I was born out of rape? That would be my question.
Asante. Maswali yameulizwa mengi kabisa. Yeye pia anasisitiza lile la mimi ambaye nimezaliwa out of defilement niko na haki kweli? Je, maslahi yangu ni yepi? Mmeuliza maswali mengi ya kutosha. Sasa turudi upande ule mwingine pia tuweze kupata majibu kutoka kwa wataalam. Mwenzangu Remi, chukua usukani.
Thank you so much, Majibu, for that. And I want to thank our audience for those very vital questions. And we do understand also that there are some of you very triggered by this conversation. And we want to let you know that there are helplines and institutions that are ready to help you. And just to name a few, though they will be up on your screens in just a bit. We have Nena Naninti. It's a confidential and non-judgmental SRHR support. That is sexual reproductive health and right support. That is Nena Nabinti, that is. And then we also have Auntie Jane. If you need someone to talk to, you can call her for information on sex, sexuality, unplanned pregnancy, contraceptives, STDs, HIV, AIDS, at any moment. She'll be very happy to help you. We also do have Wangu Kanja Foundation. If you know someone who has been affected by sexual violence, please call for confidential support and assistance. Again, the institutions that I'm mentioning, or this particular people, their numbers will be up on your screen. So feel free to take down those lines. And remember, these lines are also toll-free, so no charge at all. And the last one is Center Seruka. The Seruka Center, specialized center for comprehensive care, medical, legal, judicial, psychosocial, and community for victims and sexual violence, right? So if you're just joining us right now, we're speaking about the topic that is very crucial, that is born out of defilement. And again, if you just joined us, our audience, we're engaging our panelists on various questions, especially, we have the legal aspects and what the Constitution says. So I'll go to you, Evelyn, directly on this matter. One of the gentlemen was asking, now, yes, we do understand the situation that this mother had her child through rape, but she's assaulting this child. So this child is also in a very big predicament, and he's asking, why can she also, have justice, towards what she's doing to this, young lady. The other young lady is also mentioning that about the aspect of having a family member, this father figure or father, defile this particular child. So what do you do when you don't have a choice? There's the legal aspect, which is the right thing, but there's the practical thing, which is food and shelter you have to eat. We also have the gentleman right there who also mentioned about, this particular, some women are not mentally okay, or he said in layman's term, they're mad, and these children are taken into rescue centers, but when they're okay, what society are they going back into? Legally, how is that accounted for? So that's just a bit of, the questions asked. So just, you can start with those three as we, pile on the others, because there are quite a few.
Yeah, and just to clarify, I'm not part of the court. I'm an advocate.
Yeah, she's the advocate of the High Court.
I am not a judicial officer. There's a difference. So those three questions: how do we reintegrate the child back to society who has been rescued for one reason or another, but the mother is unable to take care of them? And I'm imagining that the father is not in the picture as well, because primarily from the Children Act, the parents are the ones who are supposed to, who are supposed to take care of the children. Such a child should be able to go back to society. They probably have an auntie, they probably have an uncle or family that can take care of them. So it is up to the children department together with the
most
courts.
scenarios we've seen are very dysfunctional families. They may not even have an aunt and uncle or anyone to go back to, and especially the stigma that those very same family members know that this child came into the world through defilement. So they may not even be received by what we may assume as those family members.
So where those structures are there, so that is the first. Remember, I talked about the principle of the best interest of the child.
Right, gotcha.
So the first line of contact would be, do we have the uncles, do we have the aunties, do we have grandfathers and grandmothers who can take care of this particular child? When this child is not, does not have those structures around them, then unfortunately they have to stay in the charitable children institution, and maybe they can be offered up for adoption. But then this follows the court process of, does anyone want to adopt these children anyway? So they have to stay in a place that is safe for them, right? So if that particular, let me say children home, that is the normal term that most of us, know. If the children home is the safest place for that child, then let them stay at the children home. But then, they can be offered up for adoption so that they're taken care of in a family setting. I talked about the foster care that we want to adopt according to the Children Act, and maybe those will be better avenues for children who are born out of defilement or for one reason or another are unable to stay at home with parents or have that particular family setup. Yeah. When we look at the issue of, there was an issue. Your second question was on the culture, and on when we look at the film, the child was also hurt by the mother. The law is clear. This mother should have been, something should have been done. There should have been a report made at the police station and everything. But then look at the mental, when we look at the mental aspect of whatever happened and why this mother was harming the child, that is why, like for instance, for us, when you come to us as crew and you want assistance, we bring in the mental aspect, even as we go to maybe the children office to assist us, when we go to the police to assist us, when we even go to court. These are issues that come up so that even as justice, as I've spoken, because justice is different for everyone, right? So even as that is being served for the child, then, all the aspects surrounding this particular crime or this child is taken into consideration. Because the question would be, do you think it is right for the mother to be jailed, for instance, for this child? Because she underwent trauma. It was not because she's, a bad mother or she wanted to actually hurt the child. It was because of her own traumas that she was actually harming the child. Is it wrong?
When you
Yes.
have a practical scenario like
Yes.
what you've just mentioned, that the mother is traumatized, but clearly what she's doing is transferring quote unquote generational, not even quote, just it's generational hurt. So this child will grow up with some pain, and also she had a baby. This young girl, towards the end of the film, we're seeing she had a child also, that she doesn't want that to happen, what she went through with her mother. So for now, practically, what does the law allow? That is practical, because I think the confusion here from our audience is that they're not confident in the laws that we have when you report these instances. It doesn't feel that anything can be done. And one of our audience members said, the ones in power get away with it. And then it's even worse for when you're not. Like, you don't seem to have proper stats or proper information as to how these cases are handled.
That is not a problem with the law. The law applies to everyone equally, and by extension, let me just say, we are not talking about the girl child only, we are also talking about the boy who is defiled. So because we have male defilement, and it happens in our households right now, and there are several cases that we can talk of, whether it's in the school, setting, whether it's in the home setting. There was that example of the blogger, although that is an adult, so we can't treat them as a child, and the matter is already in court, and we do not want to talk about things that we are just speculating. We do not have the actual facts. So that is something we leave to the police. We had a politician talk about it, a leader, right? So it's not that we are quiet, it's just that we don't have the facts of the case, and therefore we can't, keep talking about something that is in the court system. When it comes to, these particular children in this justice system, as we talk about, defilement and everything, the law is there, and what is allowable is that when it is criminalized, when something is of a criminal nature, then it is criminal. Whether it is a family member who is perpetrating it, it is defilement. And it is those things that we say, this is, the breadwinner, so let's not take them to court. And it's still, so it is me, it is my sister, it is my younger sister. So that is why this perpetrator gets the courage to continue doing the same to a generation of children inside their households. But if this person was taken, I assure you, we will find ways of surviving. The mother will find a way of surviving. The neighbors will find a way of supporting this particular mother to take care of these children. And there are other institutions that assist women and children like those. So let's seek help outside. Let us not harbor criminals in our households, because they are the ones who bring in the bread, right? When a person is in power, then the police, the DCI, everyone is supposed to treat these cases just as it would be treated if this person was a pauper, for instance. But unfortunately, maybe because of one reason or another, these institutions fail to do that because probably of the money issues, aspect of, bribery, corruption, etc. But basically, in its fundamental state, the law applies to everyone who is a citizen of Kenya or who lives in Kenya equally. Right? Yeah.
Now, Lydia, let's take a look at also one of the questions from the audience. We had the gentleman who, she's just touched on, Evelyn now, on the aspect of men in this particular perspective. Men also do undergo aspects of defilement, and their cases are hashed out because, of course, the dynamic of society and gender, for that matter. So I want us to look at it in a threefold kind of way, right? So scenarios when it comes to men, and when they face defilement, how society basically takes that particular, factor, the awareness and the empowerment also, or lack of. You've had many men say we are not empowered as girls are. So you have more empowerment of women, then it's not of boys. Then now you have boys having a power struggle, and then now defilement becomes a real case scenario, particularly in this matter. I'm sure you've heard it or you've come across it in certain cases that you deal. So for now, let's take a look at those matters.
Thank you so much. I would want to say that when you look at the boy child, it is called a hidden victim in African context. Because for the boy child, for an African, it is kawaida. It can happen anytime. And I want to say that one of the things to improve the outcomes is to make sure that we have support networks. And this is what we are trying to do as champions, that we have unsung heroes of men who can come as champions and try to make the boy child understand that there is that provision of love, that provision of support of survivors, that provision of being a figure father for the child.
I think where I get our audience member, where his concern is how it's made into a joke, on social media. For example, we're not going to look at the case, like she said, it's in court, that's discussed on a different level. But when it's a man defiled or a man beaten up for this matter, it's a joke. He's not masculine enough, shidake ni nini, hana nguvu, ni nini za kama ine za mfanyikia. So it's a whole different dynamic. When you cancel men in such situations, what do you tell them?
Oh, thank you so much. When we are canceling men, we have to bring the issues of spiritual so that they understand that they are supposed to be the protector. They have not been, it has not been put in them that they are supposed to be the protector. When I look at my brother, I look at him like my protector when it comes to the issues of sex, when it comes to the issues of making sure that I don't go to the issues of being devoured or raped. And so when you are talking to men, you have to bring the issues of being a protector, somebody who can protect you. Then they need also to understand that there is that relationship,
That's mentoring. You do that through mentoring.
Like a mentorship. We are trying to bring out the issues of mentorship for boys so that they understand, even as they grow, that they are supposed to be mentored to know that there is the father figure in them, that they need to take care of the girls. They need to have the consent to bring out the issues of consent, to bring out of the issues of love for them, and to bring out the issues of knowing that there is a positive way of asking for issues of sex, not just coming out to do the assault, the sexual assault. Yes, consent is very key. But mainly the values. We will need to bring the values. And this is where I'm saying that you have to mentor on the issues of Christianity so that they understand in Christian way, this is the way to follow, this is the way to go. And for the boy child, this is the way to do things because they are part of the family. Yeah.
We have particular aspects here. One of the gentlemen, he was mentioning that when we have women who have intergenerational trauma. And he said, you're living or born in a setting of poverty, and you grow up in it. You were raped, your mother was raped, your daughter is being raped, and she's just 4 years old. So it's something continuous, so it looks like it's part and parcel of your identity. So when some of these girls will say, I was born this way. Now, when you're putting in a boy or a girl born out of defilement, they have different characteristics. They face the same aspects of rejection, lack of education, food even, and shelter and the like, because of the stigma, but you find girls behaving a particular way and boys behaving a particular way. And they grow up integrated in society, and we never really equip these young girls and boys with proper understanding as to why they are the way they are, and also it's not their fault, they were just born. So again, I come back to the issue of complexity. It has an answer, but it's not the easiest one, right? So how do you break this down for someone who just wants to understand, what can my friend do? What can this mother do? What can this young man who doesn't have an identity, an identity crisis do? How can they help themselves and their friends and their families?
Mm-hmm. I think that's a very important thing to also consider, because once you're able to deal with the survivor or the child who has been born out of it, there are some specific things that they experience. There's shame, there's a lot of guilt, and then there's the aspect of rejection as well. So you need to be able to deal with them first as an individual through the counseling sessions and helping them come to terms and understand that, one, it's not their fault, and that's what we mean when we say we do trauma-informed. So they are able to also have an open session where even with the family members, or in cases where you've said, for example, there's been generational trauma that has been passed on, so they're able to even have group therapy and not just individual therapy.
Families to wanting to have these conversations, because even from what the audience is asking,
yes,
it's not the easiest. We are here because we are informed, but the audience is like, sasa babangu ni ananipatia food nini na mnamuogopa pia alafu mtakumfunga. It's confusion. And I like also what she said. She said also that a child or a young woman growing up in a situation where she is sexually assaulted over time, she gets used to it. So she thinks it's normal. So when you're giving psychosocial support to families or girls, how easy or hard is it, given the way our society is in reality, not what theoretically we want, but the realistic way society looks like right now?
It begins with the individual, because this individual, once you've been able to empower them, then they're able to bring in the family. And in the family setup, it's not even done necessarily as a counseling session, because we've had a session where we had to bring in the mom of a minor who was or is still pregnant. And once you sit with them and you're able to find out the challenges that they're facing and understand where they're coming from, then you're able to give them more information. That way they're able to understand what it is that is going on. And then they are more open now to accepting even the counseling sessions, whether it's a family therapy session or a group therapy session. Yeah.
So I want you to give us your perspective on the same, because I think the young lady behind you was the one who asked that question. She was very concerned. And also the gentleman behind you about exactly, how do you even deal with these particular situations that look like they have solutions, but the way we mitigate those solutions are the problem?
Thank you so much. What I would like to tell Bobo, as she said, is that you should know that you are not a slave, you're not a woman, you're not a wife, but you are a girl. And when, for example, when the perpetrator is your daddy, there's so many organizations like CREW and Daktari can bear me witness. We are mobilizing all women who have gone through gender-based violence to empower them economically so that they not just rely with the person that we are saying to be jailed, so that we not repeat the same sin again and again and again. Today, that perpetrator who is your daddy, who is your uncle, who is your cousin, will do it to me. The next time you'll do it to my sister. The next time will come back to my grandmother. And we have seen that one. So we can't just sit down and say, my daddy is the breadwinner, I don't want him to be jailed. That is a big no. What we are doing, we are coming up with that program, it's called Jasiri program. We're empowering women and young girls who have gone through gender-based violence or sexual gender-based violence. We empower them economically so that they can be able to sustain their family and their children without the criminal or the perpetrator. Because today we'll say, yes, he's my daddy. He gives me daily bread, he buys for me Christmas, and Christmas is approaching, I don't have something to take home. But during that Christmas, you might be even pregnated. So, tutaficha siri moja, tulete siri ingine. This is the time we are telling young girls, we are telling even the children, your private part is your private part, and you should know you are right. It's not about your daddy, it's not about your uncle, it is not even about your mommy. We have seen or we have rescued children who are boys, and they have been defiled by the nannies in the house. We have a case in court of a 4-year-old boy who have been defiled by the so-called domestic workers in the house. And we say a child is a child. We must fight for their right. Even if the nun was a very good friend to the baby boy, that boy must get his justice. So we don't take that who is who in the family. Even if it's the priest, even if it's the father, we must fight for the light of that child. Because this is the high time we say no. We have seen even the small girls, the PP girls in school, they are doing it even in the bus. What auntie and uncle does in the house, what can you say about that? So it is the high time we say, we are girls, we are not women, we are girls, we are not slaves. Thank you.
All right. Majibu, you've heard from our panelists, and of course what they have to say. They've answered a bit of the questions there, or most of the questions. If our audience has some, I know you'll take it. But one of the things, Majibu, I'd also like you to engage the audience with is the aspect of empowerment. It's been a big issue, so you can give us your perspective.
Asante Remi. Kuna jumbe ambazo zimeweza kutuma kwenye mtandao wetu wa kijamii. Niruhusu tu nipitie jumbe mbili ambazo zimenigusa sana. Sitataja jina lake. Kuna mmoja hapa anasema hello, anatoka Nakuru, hapa na Nyeri. Anasema hili janga mimi ni mmoja wao, kwani mamangu alipata kuonana kimwili na uncle na hapo nikazaliwa. Nimepata kudharauliwa na jamii, mwishowe mzee wangu alipojua aliniacha juzi. Kijana wangu aliniuliza, machozi yakanitoka, huwa inaniuma sana. Mwingine anasema rape is very painful. I was raped at the age of hajasema and came to hate men with passion. I'm almost 45 with no kid cause I can't face men. Pia yeye sitamtaja jina lake. Mmesikia jumbe hizo, ndio maana nawaambia wanaume muombe kwa heshima, akikataa pia si shida, nenda kwa mwingine ama vipi? Haya, kuna mmoja ananyosha mkono hapa. Naomba usimame kidogo. Jina lako nani na hisia zako? Unaona umenyosha mkono, unataka kusema nini?
I'm Bobo, and thank you for answering. So I've got a question, not necessarily correlatably to the one that I had asked before. And to this one is, I've lost my train of thought. A minute, it's coming back.
Aya, tulia kidogo. Nakuja kwako sahi. Kuna mmoja anataka kuzungumza hapa. Nakuja kwako Bobo. Jina nani? Hapo. Jina lako nani na hisia zako ni zipi? Labda kama ni swali kwa panelists ama maoni yako ni yapi?
My name is Fidelis Kanene. I'm a nominated MCA at the County Assembly of Nyeri. Mine is a concern about the rape cases. As a society, we have failed the rape victims. Myself, most of the people don't want to discuss this issue. It has taken me over 20 years to come to terms that I was raped at the age of 8 years by a very close person in my family. One, this person used to tell me, if I say, I will die. Na vile nilienda shule, we could have these sessions and people coming, counselors coming, telling us you're supposed to open up. But once you open up, this is a person who's very close to maybe your mother, your father. I was brought up in a very good family. My dad and my mom are very good people, but this is something I've never opened up in a public space, because the first time I tried opening up, I opened up to my friends, and then they started laughing about it, and then I decided I'm going to keep it to myself. I'm not saying this because I want to be pitied or something, but for me, maybe I've healed a part of it, 90%, but I have the 10%. This someone I cannot take to court. Maybe if I tell my mom, mamangu sahi anaweza kufa, because this is a person she doesn't expect afanyiwe kitu. If I told my dad can kill this person and my dad will end up in jail. So some of the times we decide to keep quiet because it is good for our families, for our parents, for our siblings. And as Madam was saying, Anne was saying, this thing happens often. Like if it starts, you keep quiet, it's going to happen again and again. As parents, what are we doing to our kids? Personally, I have a daughter, and I decided I'm not going to stay with that kid. Let her stay with my mom, because it's very hard even to keep up with the relationship. Most of the times, when a man comes to me and tells me about the way he loves my daughter, that's, for me, is a red flag. Because I start thinking, what if this man wants to get close to me so that he can get to my daughter? So, and to the counselor, it's very expensive to get a therapist. What are you doing to the young girls? For me, maybe, personally, I can afford a therapist. But what about the young girls in the villages? What about the parents, the young parents? I was raped at the age of 8 years. If this thing happened, continued happening, and maybe when I got to 13 years, when I started receiving my periods, I could have been pregnant. Ningepata mtoto, sijui ningeambia mama yangu nimepata mtoto wa nani, ningeambia baba yangu nimepata mtoto wa nani. And so sometimes it's very hard. The society has failed everyone. The young parents, I think it's very important for the young parents. Personally, I always take time to speak to my daughter. As a woman to woman or girl to girl, I always tell her, if a man comes to you, akikuguza mahali fulani, please tell me. Akikuambia kitu fulani, please tell me. I think it's very important as a society to be empowered, to empower everyone. And to the men, I think this empowerment should go mostly to men. Because I don't think at the age of 80 years, hata sikuwa na matiti, I don't know what this man saw in me. So I think the empowerment should go to men mostly. Don't think about the girl child only, because the men, this thing is affecting the men. We also need to know why are they doing this. Because sioni vile mtoto wa 2 years, 8 years, anakufurahisha, yetu meacha mtu mzima kama mimi, akona matiti amebeba kila kitu, and then I don't know.
Asante. Tunasema leo hatufiche kitu leo hapa. Tunazungumza kila kitu. Endea rika lako, acha kuendea watoto. Kumbuka pia kama unafuatilizia matangazo haya pale nyumbani, pia kumbuka unaweza kutuma maoni yako mbali na hapa, tuko tunapitia jumbe zako pia. Kumbuka kutumia #Let'sGetReal. Nije kwako, ushamaliza sasa, point ishakuja fresh sasa. Haya, sema.
Ilikuwa nataka tu niketi chini, though she has asked part of the question, it was about the parents. My question goes to the parents. The parent may not be defiled, but her daughter is defiled. I don't know if you're getting it. Alafu but the parent is hurt. Right now, as the Gen Zs, karibu niangushe. As the Gen Zs, we don't know that part of being hurt, but our parents are hurt previously because maybe a mother akona watoto wengi, anapenda mmoja kushinda mwingine ile kitambo before apate mali yake. So amebeba a garbage of how she's hurt, kukuja koleka na mwanaume ambaye mwenye anampenda partly ampendi, like kuna madharau mingi, si ndio? Alafu wewe mtoto umekuja umedifailiwa na babako. Unakuja unaambia mama yako babangu amenidefile. She's already hurt by a lot of things and hurt by the father. Kenya atakujibu ni amekudefile aje na amesha threateniwa. Let me use an example, si ndio? Asha threateniwa, like it doesn't add up. So my question to the counselor is, what are we going to do to our parents? Because she might be defiled or not, but may lead to her daughter being defiled and may not act anyway. So what do we do to the parents?
Asante. Pia wazazi wanaambiwa washughulike kabisa, kwa maana mara nyingi visa hivi vinatokea lakini wanaamua kunyamaza. Labda mhusika ana pesa kushinda wengine kwenye jamii, wanadhani kwamba sasa huyu tukimfuata itakuwaje. Pia vile vile niweze kupata pia kauli yako bingwa, kwa maana kwamba idadi kubwa pia wale ambao pia wanahusika na visa hivi ni wale ambao wanaishi na ulemavu. Labda pia wanakosa kuzungumza, labda kwa sababu ya uoga ama labda jamii inavyowachukulia. Je, unadhani kipi kifanyike kuhakikisha kwamba pia serikali inaweza kushughulikia maslahi yao na kuona kwamba endapo visa hivi vitatokea pia kuna haki ambayo pia wanasema kwamba tunajivunia?
Shukran. I'm Douglas Mutahi. So, kitu ya kwanza ni kama sheria, watu wakuwe educated more about sheria. Mostly kama sisi PWDs, tukue educated, tujue hii kitu hii kifanyika, what can you do? And then we take the necessary measures to make sure that we are well protected, because si rahisi kama mimi nikiweza kuwa defiled ama any other person, hata kwenda kwa police station inakuwa shida. So how are we being protected when we are in our rural homes or anywhere else of this development?
Asante. Amesema sheria zipo lakini wengi hawana ufahamu. Bingwa, simama. Jina lako nani na umeniita, unasemaje?
Kwa majina naitwa Davis Mwandaza, utaniwia radhi nitazungumza kwa Kiswahili.
Usiogope, mwenyewe naongea Kiswahili mzee.
Swali langu ni kwamba nilikuwa nauliza tu, je, kuna mikakati ambayo imewekwa ni kwa ajili ya kufikia wale watu ambao wanakuwa defiled, ama ni hadi mtu akuje kureport kwa station ndio ijulikane kuwa amekuwa defiled? Alafu nilikuwa na sijui kama ni ombi pia, ikiwa inawezekana, kwa sababu kupata therapist it's a bit expensive, lakini kuna groups ambazo zimeundwa ni kwa ajili ya kupea ushauri kwa vijana. Sana sana sisi vijana tuko na groups kadhaa zenye zinapeana ushauri. So nilikuwa nauliza kama as the group of therapists wenye wako high level at least, kama wanaweza equip these groups na hizi skills za kufuata hawa watu ambao wamekuwa defiled, at least itakuwa inasaidia pakubwa katika kufikia idadi kubwa ya watu ambao wamekuwa defiled.
Asante. Mambo mawili ambayo nimeweza kuyapata. Jambo moja ni kwanza ni elimu kwa umma, kwa maana watu wengi hawaelewi zile sheria ambazo zipo. Na pili, pia kama alivyozungumza bingwa pale, tunazungumzia masuala haya baada ya kwamba yashatendeka. Kuna Waswahili wanasema kwamba tahadhari kabla ya hatari. Je, kuna mikakati ambayo imewekwa kuweza kuhakikisha kwamba kabla ya visa hivi kutokea kuna sheria ambazo zimewekwa na kuweza kuona kwamba tunazuia vile visa kabla havijatokea? Kauli yako. Simama tafadhali tukuone nyumbani.
Kwa majina naitwa Alicia. Mine is a case scenario. For instance, my mother was defiled and immediately, alikaa na mimi mpaka wakati nimemaliza ku breastfeed. And then immediately I stopped breastfeeding, she took me to one of my aunts or my grandmother. And then all of my life I've lived with my grandmother. And then at a particular age, in one way or the other, kuna mtu tu anakutokanga na huko, and then anakuja ananiambia, or you hear stories like you ulizaliwa out of mamako alirepiwa ndo ukazaliwa. And at that particular age ndo unajua I was born out of rape. So on whose hands are we safe? How kuna contact tracing ya watoto ama what is being done? Because at that particular moment you start blaming your mother of everything worse that has ever happened in your life. And everything bad that has happened in your life, you'll be, that is the reason maisha yangu inakuanga hivi, ndo maana, you see? Yeah.
Asante. Sasa tumeongea na akina dada sana, lakini wale wahusika wa visa hivi ni wanaume. Acha niongee na mwanaume mmoja hapa. Bingwa, kabla utoe kauli yako, ningependa kukuuliza hivi. Tumesikia kuna dada pale mbali ambaye ameweza kusema kwamba mama mzazi aliweza kupitia changamoto hii, aliweza kunajisiwa. Wewe unadhani kipi kifanyike kwa wale ambao wanahusika na visa hivi? Kwa maana ni wanaume kama wewe. Simama utuambie.
Kuhusiana na hiyo, let the rule of law take its action. Yeah, if someone amejulikana like this, the person has been identified, there is enough evidence, let the rule, hiyo hakuna compromise, let the rule of law take its course. Now, I had a question to the legal team. My question was, like the film that we watched, this mother was mistreating her child because of the trauma that she had went through. Now, let's say that the court has traced this issue and has taken this woman to court. How lenient is the law to understand that this mother is not doing all these things to the child because of bad will, but it's because of what she had underwent through? And let's say the court has found her guilty of mistreating the child. It has sentenced the mother. Then is it controlling the situation or making it worse? Because now it's a series of issues that the mother is feeling like. First, I was raped. I did not like it. I got the child. I did not like it. I've been sentenced again about the same thing, yet the underlying issue has not been solved yet. How lenient is the law to the people who are, let's say, the people who have faced this issue?
Asante Bingwa. Kabla nirudishe kipaza sauti kwa mwenzangu Remi Majala na pia vile vile wataalamu waweze kujibu maswali yenu, kuna mwingine ambaye ana swali? Nitakuja kwako dakika moja tu niweze kupata kauli ya mzee wangu hapa. Naomba usimame tafadhali.
Mine, I think I will suggest something to the counselor. Maybe it is the highest time, because I've heard girls speak here, and it's like people are dying with bitterness. They saw it, they heard it, and it was suppressed. It is coming up. You need to do a paper, maybe take it to the county parliament, so that we can do what we are calling counseling in schools, in institutions of higher learning, where these girls and the young men are gathered, that they can be assisted because of mental wellness, because they had it, their mother doing it, they are experiencing it, and maybe the future. So why can't we save the future by empowering, by counseling the present generation? Can you do a paper, take it to the county parliament, and the parliament inaugurate that we should go to the schools and do mental counseling?
Asante. Wamepata kauli yako. Kabla nirudishe kwa Remi, MC Dani, ruhusu tu kidogo, kuna dada ambaye ameweza kusema naomba uje karibu, ama kamera itafika huku. Kauli yako ni ipi? Naomba usimame tafadhali tukuone.
Hi, naitwa Jennifer. Kuna hii incident ili happen August this year. Ni katoto ka friend kangu sana, kako 8 years. Like last year alipoteza bro yake, alikuwa akiwa form 4. Then babake juu ya stress akapatwa stroke. Sasa mamake ni yule alikuwa tu ni bibi tu mwenye anafanya tu kazi za huko home. So venye huyu sawa hasi yake amepata hiyo stroke, sasa mamake ni anaanza kufanya hizi vibarua kuwaswaso hivyo, anakuja majioni. Apparently that's ako ka friend kangu ka dem, there is a guy ako form 4 sai, he took advantage of her. Sai like saka kienda shule, kakaanza kukua na hizo pains, hakawezi kutembea. Sami siku hiyo nilikuwa naenda ya job, sasa tukapatana na kenyewe, nikakauliza agi ni nini? kakaniambia tu kako sawa, lakini juu mimi nakajua nikasema wacha nikupush nikufikishe shule then tutaongea majioni. Sasa tukaenda shuleni yenyewe, saa kaliniambia venye huyo kijana alikafanyia. Sasa tukaenda nikaambia masake like sasa mamake sana alikuwa like okay ulifanywa hivyo, huyo ndo babako, hadi sina food ya kuwalisha, like wako tu ile pua kabisa. Sasa mtoto kama huyo anaweza saidika aje, na ako in pain, she is only 8 years.
Asante. Mnasikia visa hivyo vinatokea kila siku, lakini nashukuru sana kwa maana wale ambao wamezungumza wamepata nafasi ya kuzungumza mambo ambayo huwa si rahisi sana mtu kupata nafasi ya kuweza kuyazungumza. Sasa kabla nirudishe, kuna hili ambalo linatokea sana. Mara nyingi watu ambao wanazaliwa baada ya uzazi wao, ama niseme mama yake kubakwa, huwa kuna tatizo la utambulisho. Wanapotafuta karatasi kama tuseme kama ni birth certificates, unapata amezaliwa anaitwa Majibu kama mimi, lakini jina la pili ni Fatuma ama Amina. Na mara nyingi huwa kuna unyanyapaa sana kwa wanaozaliwa, hasa kama ni mwanaume. Kwa wanawake mara nyingi huwa hakuna shida nyingi sana ambazo zinatokea, lakini kijana ambaye amezaliwa lakini kuna ile shida ya utambulisho, huwa mtazungumziaje hili swala la unyanyapaa? Je, jamii itawakubali vipi? Ama kuna elimu ambayo labda inafaa kupitishwa kwa umma kuweza kuona kwamba visa kama hivi, mtu ambaye amezaliwa baada ya mzazi kunajisiwa anaweza kukubalika katika jamii, na hatuoni kwamba wanatengwa na kuishia kukumbana na matatizo ya afya ya akili. Kwenu, Remy.
Thank you so much, Majibu, for that, and our audience for all those questions and sentiments they had in the same. Now, because of time, I'd like you to respond to our audience. And the critical issues here are parents not disclosing to their children how they came into this world, and then now the children finding out from relatives, which throws them off entirely, and they have this guilt and judgment all in the same place. So please remember that. We also have the aspect of the laws lenient to mothers who are causing trauma or harm to their children because of the trauma they themselves had. And we also have the issue of therapy the young man mentioned about it being expensive. Can there be a form of sensitization within the county whereby groups are formed or so that they can be able to join in and then just receive some form of support? That's what I believe he was saying. If this is too expensive to have, what else, can be done? And like the gentleman mentioned about having, a plan or basically a proposal in the county government that seeks to have some form of, awareness to young girls or even men for that matter, because we cannot have this conversation and leave out men, as men are affected and men are perpetrating. So we have the same, we have that all around, that can also have counseling aspects in it. So I'll begin with you, Phoebe. I'm sure you've gotten all that they've asked, and those are my questions, so let's start with you.
All right. I'd want to commend the lady who shared about her experience first. That was very bold for you to be able to share about what you've gone through. She raised an issue about how do parents, and there's another, Charlene also raised the same issue. As parents, how do you approach it? You need to be friends with your children. You need to be able to talk about sex, age-appropriate sex and inappropriate sex with your children at some point, so that they're comfortable enough to come and share with you.
I think the biggest issue here is, why do some of these men go for children when they can clearly see there are other women out there, grown and fully aware, but you go and defile and spoil the life of a young lady? That was part of her pain in the story. What can you say about that?
When we talk about sexual gender-based violence, it's because the people who are attacked are vulnerable. So this is a person, a child is more vulnerable than a woman who can be able to shout and scream. You're not going to tell a woman that, no, keep quiet or I'm going to kill you, unless you actually have a weapon. But you have more power over a child as an adult because they see you as someone in authority in the mind of that child. There was also an issue that she raised about counseling being able to be accessed to more people. At CREW, we do provide free legal and psychosocial services. All our services are free. So if you're able to call in, if you're not in Nairobi, within our offices out and in of Nairobi, you can always reach out to us. We do have a toll-free number, which we shall be sharing. I think you already shared. And you can get counseling for free at no cost at all. Then we do have activities where we are able to provide and train community champions and people in the community about psychological first aid. So, for instance, the way she shared, she has found a child who has experienced defilement. So she would be able to actually give her psychological first aid, helping this girl to be able to come out of it and even express herself better. Male engagement is also part of what we are doing. We do have projects and activities that have male engagement to help them talk and understand and also be part of that conversation.
I see. Let's come to you now, Lydia. Give us your perspective and also answer some of the questions from our audience, like I mentioned to you earlier.
Thank you. I think one of the issues that has come out clearly from the audience is that we need to have empowerment. And this empowerment must come from the ground, just like from the family. And I think this is what is missing out, and we need to work out as champions so that we make sure that we champion the issues of coming together as a family and talking about sex openly. And one of the initiatives I would bring across is when in old days we used to have men and men talk, that they would sit on a fireplace and they would talk about the issues of sex. And this should come back as a societal norm, that people should understand that there is that gap that is already there that needs to be filled on the issues of discussions, interactions for men to men and women to men as they do their core jobs like cooking and even washing clothes. We need to come back to that. We need to speak out. Then when it comes to issues of courages, we need to have peers. Peers are the people that can mentor others, that can make sure that they bring out the issues of sex plainly and talk about what is this that need to be done so that you do not go for vulnerable children. You can have you can have it decently. Then the other issue is the issue of during the rite of passage. Like in all the churches, we have the rite of passage where young men go for circumcision. That is a very good time that men can be supported. And for the young boys, they can be supported on issues of being decent, on issues of sex. And girls also come in for mentorship. They can also be talked to for people of value to understand what is this that they need to do so that they can speak out on issues of development. And I want to bring us back to the time when we were young and we were in schools, and our parents were very strict on issues of going to wash dishes for our teachers, that you go to the teachers during the break time and you wash dishes. It used to be a very big issue for the family, that because that is the time they target you for rape. And so this is something that need to come out, that we need to go back. I think us as a society, as parents, we have failed. We have not done what we are supposed to do. We need to go back. We need to come out. We need to talk plainly about sex. We need to interact with our boys and our girls on issues of sex. Then we need to have champions that can create awareness, even in the society in general, that they can go to forums like Barasas and talk on issues of sex, and they open up and talk about boys and girls and the values that need to be brought across on issues of sex, so that people can understand that there is decent sex.
Right.
Yes.
Okay, Evelyn, now just to add on to in the questions you'll be answering, my colleague Majibu asked about the national identity aspect. Of course, it's not easy for some of these individuals, especially men, like you mentioned. So you can find Emmanuel, Fatima, Emmanuel, Amina, and the like. So please give us that particular perspective and also the aspect of law when it comes to leniency on mothers who traumatize their children because of the trauma that they're also going through.
Okay, so on the mothers that traumatize children because of what they went through, if they go through the court process, the court is a person who applies the law according to what they've gone through the training, and the courts do not apply the law in isolation. There are other officers who also interrogate the cases. For instance, if the example that we have is the mother in this film, the probation office would be called in, right? So sentencing does not mean that someone needs to go to jail for, I don't know, 5 years or whatever. Sometimes there are sentences that can be served outside. So probably a probation officer could be assigned to this particular mother to follow up to ensure that they are still taking care of the child as the child should be taken care of. So they don't need to go to jail. Number two, the services of a children officer would be required so that they can assess the situation at home. The child is also brought in to give their, their testimony and say what was the victim impact on you, and what would you say, what do you want to happen? So the child also has a voice in her own case. So it is not as isolated as people perceive it, but it takes, a lot of the opinions of the survivor herself, the neighbors, the school, maybe the teachers can give, their view. So that is what happens when it comes to that. With the issue of the national identity, all persons who are citizens of Kenya, of course, under Article 14, are supposed to be registered. That is their right by virtue of being citizens. So that should not be an issue, whether they are born out of defilement or not. If it is an issue, I think that is a systemic issue rather than a legal issue. And maybe the officers need to be sensitized on what needs to be done so that these persons are registered and are recognized as full citizens of Kenya.
All right, now, in the interest of time, I'd like to get your perspective on the same. Please keep it very brief because of time, but Anne, give us your perspective.
What I can say about it is that, for instance, the case that you have been given there about the small girl, now that it has come to this panel, it is our responsibility now to follow up that child as a champion so that she can get the justice, and we assure our panel that that girl is going to get the justice. Number two, what I would like to tell our audience is that we thank the CJ Kome. Right now we have in Mombasa a court for gender, so even our boy child can be able to go and articulate their cases there because we have the gender court. We salute CJ Kome for that. And also what I can say for the Nyeri County people, we have champions, and kindly don't hesitate to talk about SGBV against children. We must stop it. Save a child today for better tomorrow. Right. This is called a hard cry, just as what my sister have said. It is a hard cry. It is a pain that she had, and I'm sure we are going to come up with a program, especially during the 16 days of GBV, to be able to take their cases positively, and they feel that they are part and parcel of this society. Thank you.
All right, and thank you so much. Now, I'm just about to, give the platform to my colleague Majibu Kitsao there, but just to read 3 or so comments here. We have one from Mwalimu Dennis who says, I'm following live from Karatina University. This is one of the best sensitization and motivational programs. The most endangered species is the girl child. Wish to find the long-lasting solution. Another one here says, I have invited teachers to listen, and they are saying they hear a lot from both the boy and girl child. And the last one here that I'll read is, I'm a teacher next to Nyeri slums. Kids are exposed to sex at very early ages, hence when they do not know when abused or not. So the feedback is quite, wholesome for this matter, and we're happy that as a panel and our audience were able to have a very, real and deep conversation. Now, I'll hand it over to my colleague there, Majibu Kitsao.
Asante sana Remi, na ndio mwisho tunatamatisha kipindi chetu siku hii ya leo kutoka kaunti ya Nyeri. Niseme ni gumzo ambalo mwenyewe sina maneno, ama niseme majibu, sina majibu, kwa maana wameweza kuzungumza mengi wale ambao ni waathiriwa, na pia vile vile jamii imezungumza kwa kina. Niseme shukrani za dhati kwa kipindi kizima cha Docubox chini ya mpango mzima wa Get Real, na pia vile vile kikosi kizima cha wataalam pale mbele kwa maoni yenu ambayo bila shaka nitasema kwamba ni ya maana sana. Asanteni. Na pia vile vile wakazi wa kaunti ya Nyeri ambao wameweza kujitokeza kwa wingi kabisa kuweza kuchangia mada hii, pia niseme asanteni sana. Kikosi kizima nyuma ya kamera kikiongozwa na MC Dan the Hype Guru aka Mzee wa Matulinga, na pia vile vile mzalishaji wa kipindi Eddie Kavai, niseme shukrani za dhati sana. Kutoka kwangu majibu kisao, lakini kwani nitamaliza bila kujishukuru pia mimi? Si nimefanya kazi nzuri? Nipigeni makofi basi. Asanteni sana. Kutoka hapa kaunti ya Nyeri pia vile vile niwakumbushe kwamba tarehe 27 tutakuwa kaunti ya Mombasa, kaunti 001. Tutatazama filamu inaitwa Sukari, na pia vile vile tutaelimishana kwa kina kabisa kuhusiana na elimu ya ngono ikiambatana na Family Sexuality Education Month. Kwa hivyo watu wangu wa Mombasa, jipangeni kabisa, muwe ngangari kinoma. Tunakuja tarehe 27 mwezi huu wa Oktoba. Remi.
Nashukuru sana Majibu, and of course I want to thank our panelists for coming in today and being part of this very crucial conversation. We have been talking to Anne Wamboi, activist of GBV and founder of NEMA GBV Rescue Center. We've had Lydia Njaramba, Nyeri County champion. We've had Evelyn Apondi, advocate of the High Court. Phoebe Zulu, counseling psychologist. And I want to give a special thanks, of course, to our recognizable guests here. We've had Agnes Washira, nominated MCA Gender. We also want to thank Fidelis Kanene, nominated MCA Gender, and we also had here Liz Muriki, director, and Serene Rescue Center. Thank you so much, Fidelis, for sharing your story, and that young girl there who was also brave enough to share a story, and you, young lady, for also sharing the story of your mother. Thank you so much for watching. My director is saying we're totally out of time. Thank you for being part of this conversation. Najipigini makofi tafadhali.
Makofi.
Santeni. Santeni.